Happy Advent, Christine.
Thank you.
We decided that we are going to do short episodes that are like an Advent rip-off calendar.
That's right.
Leading up to Christmas, kind of thinking through Christmas issues, right?
Issues, yes. I think that's a great thing because there's lots of stories out there that I was not aware of, and we'll get to that. But then we have the 4 canonical Gospels.
Yeah.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and which ones have Christmas, which ones don't. And when we say Christmas, let's be clear, it's the birth of Jesus is what we're talking about.
Right.
I don't think they called it Christmas.
No.
But the stories of the birth of our Savior, and was there an inn? Was there not an inn? How many magi?
Did the shepherds show up? Were the angels singing?
Yeah.
Was there a donkey involved where Mary was like riding and almost gave birth on a donkey? I mean, all these questions. And I know this is a podcast, but for those of you who are watching us on YouTube, you get to see our Jesus birthday cake in the shape of a lamb.
Yes.
And so this is Happy Birthday Jesus cake.
Which, if you're not familiar with, that is something that a lot of evangelical families will do. They will make a birthday cake for Jesus. In my church, we would sing happy birthday to Jesus. We didn't make a lamb cake, but we did sing happy birthday.
This was courtesy of the amazing Kristen Brown, and so thank you for making our Jesus lamb cake for our episode, Kristen.
Yes.
So it's not the first one in our New Testaments, but let's start off with Mark. The thing about Mark is my favorite gospel. Mark gets right to the point. It's short. It's only 16 chapters. Loved it always. Mark is in a hurry, too. And Mark is in such a hurry that there is no Christmas story.
No, he ain't got time for a birth.
Nope.
Nope.
There's no manger, no angels, no star, no drama.
Drama.
Mark says, Christmas, never heard of it before.
Yeah.
Now, let's be clear, too. I don't actually think that a person named Mark wrote the Gospel of Mark, but it's attributed to Mark.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, Gospel number 2.
We can move on to John, who also really doesn't have a birth narrative. Actually, that's not true. He kind of takes it up a notch.
Oh, yeah.
And he moves away from, Jesus was birthed to, oh, no, Jesus was there. He was there from the beginning. So he wants to go full origin story
like
on
the
Jesus.
Beginning, the Big Bang theory of
the beginning. Yes. So,
beginning of the world.
No shepherds, no magi, none of that. He was just there. Now let's get on with it.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and blah, 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 blah. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the Word is generally thought to be understood as Jesus.
It's a very sort of heady, intellectual, philosophical, mystical sort of idea of the beginning, and no birth narrative, no anything, no Elizabeth, no Zechariah, no Mary, no Joseph.
Yeah.
None of that.
Nothing.
Okay, so 2 of the 4 Gospels say absolutely nothing about what we call the Christmas story. Right. What do you think about that?
If you're going to ask me for real, I'm just going to say because it's all because of the audiences. Like, I don't think the people that John was writing to really cared. I think it was really more important for the writers of John, whoever and however many there were, just felt like they needed to go, listen, it's cosmic. We're not talking about, we don't care if she was a virgin or not. It's none of that matters.
Yes.
And so I think it's more part of just their philosophy and who they were writing to. And then John was much later than the other ones too.
That's true.
Yeah, and he wasn't trying to prove a point on who Jesus was or wasn't. Now, Mark is the funny one because Mark, technically, he's the first gospel.
The earliest gospel written down. Yeah.
And most people think he was kind of writing a little bit just to kind of get, if you want to go Real Housewives on the church leaders, a lot of people think Mark was trying to get back at Paul because Paul had kind of set the tone of who Jesus was.
Yep.
And then Mark was like, no, hold up. I know people that were actually with Jesus. Yeah. Paul didn't know Jesus. I knew Jesus.
Right.
Or whoever wrote it.
Yeah.
And so that's how that kind of got started. But it is funny that he doesn't, you're right. He still has to say, yeah, but I knew him. I knew him,
Yeah.
and throws out these things, but doesn't think it all through. And
Yeah.
now here come Matthew and Luke are like, oh, we gonna think this through.
Yeah. And we're going to kind of go through what they have. So we're going to start with Matthew. I'm just curious what people think about all this. So I know the first thing that I always think of when I flip to the Gospel of Matthew, which, let's be clear, is the first gospel that shows up in our New Testaments, in our
Yes.
Bibles these days, right?
Yes.
And what shows up is this long ass genealogy of Jesus, right?
Yes.
And it is like so boring. It's
Yes.
boring for most people.
Why are you pointing at me like I'm the nerd? I love the genealogy.
Because you are the nerd about this. Yes, I know. I understand.
It's the women that get kind of pointed in that
Yeah.
I go, ooh, yes, baby. And the people that don't get in, but that's a whole nother
That's
episode.
a whole other thing.
That's a whole
right.
other episode.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
So Matthew, and again, keeping in mind, Matthew is very much a strongly Jewish text. So it is writing to those very hardline Jewish people.
Who are still, very much
Yes.
still identifying
Still, yes.
as Jewish and seeing that Jesus is a rabbi or a leader to them,
Yes.
but very much still identify as Jewish people.
And
It's
therefore,
important.
that is why the genealogy is so important. And yes, it is a little bit boring read. And then it really starts up in chapter 2.
Yeah.
Then we start getting going. You have this whole Mary and Joseph getting married, and we all know that. They get angelic memos.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
the angel shows up to Joseph first, right?
So Matthew's Christmas story does not include the angel coming to Mary. It is much more Joseph-centered. And so basically Joseph shows up, comes home. They've already been agreed that they are going to be married, but he finds her already preggers. And he's like, oh, whoa, not my baby. And decides to quietly divorce her. That's when he has his little dream and is visited by an angel and told what is going to happen. The other interesting thing is that I don't see that they call Mary a virgin in this one. They use the scripture from Isaiah, I think it's Isaiah, where the virgin will be with child and then she will have the child and they will call him Emmanuel. A virgin in that setting, as you have taught me, is more just a young woman.
Right. The word, it's a Hebrew word, and it just means young woman. When it got translated into the Greek word is parthenos, which can be translated young woman who, or a young woman who hasn't yet had her first child, or a virgin.
Yeah.
And of course, most Christian translators, especially coming into English now, have chosen to say virgin all these years. And so, we have this
now
whole
we have the virgin narrative. She's now going to have this baby. She then takes off. They have to move on because Herod now has entered the story. And the Magi show up. Mm-hmm. That's right, in chapter 2. And then they start going, hey, pretty sure the Messiah's here. Follow the star.
Well, and also what's so funny is it's like so Joseph awakes from the dream. He takes Mary as his wife. And then the whole Christmas story that we know of is told in this line. He had no marital relations with her until she had borne a son, and he named him Jesus. Yeah. That's pretty much the whole story. So anyway, then we get into the Magi coming.
The Magi showing up, and we don't really know when. We don't think I'm going to put myself with the scholars. Okay, the scholars don't think, and I agree with them, that there is no we don't know the timeline. Did the Magi show up the night he was born? Probably not. The Magi probably started their trek because supposedly they see this star.
Well, and a lot of scholars they can't find an actual astrological.
They can't find a star.
There's no star or astronomical event that would have happened anywhere around this time frame.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so they've taken LSD.
Yeah.
Found a star, started walking. We have no idea when they got there. Could be anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. But somehow they show up in this town and they start yelling, where's the Messiah?
Yeah.
And that's when everything gets all, Herod's like, oh, what do you mean the Messiah? And
I want to worship him.
Yeah, and they call him the King of the Jews, or,
Yeah.
King of the Jews, or
Right.
Judah is king, depending on how it is. So they find him, they being however many magi there are. They have all these gifts, apparently, frankincense, myrrh. They lay it at the feet of this supposed toddler, who can we just stop right there? You're going to lay all this stuff at a toddler's feet. They probably can't put things in their mouth, but of course is going to put things in their mouth. Anyway.
Frankincense, myrrh.
Yeah. And then after meeting little baby Jesus, they go to sleep and they have a dream, and the angel tells them, there are lots of dreams. People were having lots of dreams in these days. Basically, they're told, get the heck out. Don't go back to Herod and tell him anything about this baby, where you found him, all that good stuff, and get gone. They do that. Herod gets really mad because now he's been tricked and nobody listened to him, and he's in charge, and he has this power trip, and unfortunately then goes after all these children 2 years and younger, which, where was John the Baptist?
That is exactly the question. How did he survive? But other ones
then
didn't.
Again, he was in the woods eating locusts. Maybe they started him early on that.
Two or whatever. Yeah. I don't know.
I know. Interesting.
So part of what some scholars talk about is that because the Gospel of Matthew is so focused and comes out of a very strong Jewish community,
yes,
that really what they're trying to do in this gospel is make the connections to Moses. And so like in Moses' story, you've got Moses coming out of Egypt, and here you've got Jesus going to Egypt as a baby. And you've got, the Passover story where all the young boys are killed and all this kind of stuff. And so so what many people believe now, who are New Testament scholars, they think that they're really trying to show the parallels between Jesus and Moses, and how Jesus is the new Moses.
Right.
So,
right. And then the Magi, I have found interesting in the sense that they're using these foreign, quote unquote, leaders to verify that Judea now has a new king, and that they know this, and they are coming to reverently honor and acknowledge this king, which is why Herod goes all crazy.
Yeah.
So I love that Matthew kind of throws that into like, oh, everybody's saying he's the king. See, they showed up.
Yeah.
That's kind of what he's writing when he throws in these like magi, because these are leaders and from all these different places coming together to witness. It's like a summit, a G2 summit at the feet of a toddler,
right. Yeah. And so you've got this assassination attempt basically from Herod on Jesus's life. And you've got these astrologers, magi, whatever you want to call them, coming to honor and recognize Jesus's kingship, even though they're not Jewish and they're not from the neighborhood at all.
No, yeah. So there's no manger.
No manger.
There's no inn or innkeeper. There's no long walks at night on the donkey. This is all very much like, hey, come see me. I'm over here. And if you want, you can come in and we'll let you come worship at our feet. But that was it.
So it's all about there's a very big political intrigue going on that's being caused by the birth of Jesus.
Yes.
In Matthew.
Yes. Matthew is pretty much staking a claim here. Like, this is the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we've got Luke. And Luke is really, I think, that's the Charlie Brown Christmas special, right?
That's perfect. Yes.
I mean, that's what the Charlie Brown
is.
Christmas special is based on, which is really funny to think about.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's interesting to me about the Gospel of Luke is that it starts off with Zechariah, and who's a priest in the temple, and he has this experience, and he's being told that his wife, who's very old and they've never had a child,
Yes.
is going to have a child. And he's like, yeah, whatever,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
as if. And so he ends up becoming mute then the rest of his wife's pregnancy and doesn't speak until the child is born. And Elizabeth also is told that she's going to have a child. She has John the Baptist. And while she's pregnant, Mary has an encounter with an angel and is told she's going to have a baby. What is interesting is that there is this, Mary consents to having this divine child. So there's this whole thing about consent in Luke that you don't ever think about, but I love that it shows up. She's like, yes, I'll do this. Let it be with me according to your word, is what she says at the end of her, what we call the Song of Mary in Luke. And so she then goes and stays with Elizabeth while she's pregnant. We don't hear about Joseph in the Gospel of Luke.
Yeah.
And what are the other things that show up in Luke that don't show up in Matthew even?
The genealogies don't match. So going back to being,
Yeah.
because so there, and that's, like I said, that's a whole nother episode. The genealogies actually continue that whole, political or not political. Most people see that the Luke gospel, although I love that you say it's the Charlie Brown one, is much more for the everyday people. So there are no magi from the east coming with gifts. And in fact, it's the shepherds that get the message. And they also get an angel that appears to them to tell them, hey, your king has now been born. And, go say hi. It's the middle of the night, supposedly, because it came at night. And I would assume that they are actually a closer walk. And in this case, they being Joseph and Mary are actually going to take part of the census
in Bethlehem.
So
this is the only place where it talks about Bethlehem at all. Everywhere else, Jesus is known as being from Nazareth.
Jesus of Nazarene. Yeah, the Nazarene. So they're going to Bethlehem. She's not on a donkey here, right? That's actually in somewhere else, which I find really funny that little detail came from a completely different story that we'll talk about in another Advent episode. But so she's somehow along the way, she knows it's time. We all know the story. He knocks and knocks, do you have room? And the innkeeper's like, no, blah, 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 blah.
So you have to go to the barn, basically.
Go to the barn, yes. I've read other things where it was also could have been just in the basement, and in the basement of these houses is where they would have kept all the animals. And so they may have been in there, but with the animals.
Or the first level. Or it could have been a cave. People have talked about it being a cave,
well,
maybe.
Yeah, that's another possibility, which love that. So she has the baby. The shepherds, who must have been nearby, show up. And it's the shepherds that really stand out to me, because these are the lowest rank of society, if you will, and especially probably the ones that are out at night. So the fact that the angel visits them to tell them about this and honors them, I think is again a really different kind of take on it. I love that Luke does that.
And there's no Herod in this story.
There's no Herod.
There's no escape to Egypt. The other thing is that there is this whole idea of this census of Quirinius, and the census that, the emperor called for.
Yeah.
There's no record of a census anytime, and it was not something that happened.
And I heard scholar Dan McClellan say, how many of us would trek however many days you can't get us to be counted now, and they come to our porch. Why would people do this? And on top of that, it would mess up their entire economic region and stability if everybody's moving to a different place or their home place to be counted, because then now you get no taxes over here because there's no people there. And I was like, wow, I never thought of that.
Yeah. So the whole census thing, it's not historical. And so this is the question that you have to ask when you're looking at the difference between these different gospels, and there's no way that they can be this. I mean, they contradict each other. There's just no way. You can't
They
deny
contradict each
it.
other and themselves.
Yeah. So the question becomes, what does it mean if we take the Bible seriously, even if we don't take the Bible literally, as Marcus Borg and John Dominic Crossan talk about, if we take the Bible seriously but not literally, what did it mean for these stories to be told this way at the time they were written? And then what does it mean for us today? And so those are the questions that I encourage all of us to consider, because it's not for us to come up with the answers. It's for us to share these things with y'all, to point them out, and then everybody gets to decide, you know, what do you make with all these contradictions? You've got Mark, who has no Christmas story, John, who goes all quantum physics-y on everything, right? Then you've got Matthew with this whole political intrigue and all this stuff, and spy sort of, you know, quick escape to Egypt thing. And then Luke is the traditional Christmas pageant that many people have heard of and seen, and that's where you get the live nativity scenes at Christmas time with donkeys and camels and everything that people can go.
But they
and
always
watch.
throw in Herod, so it really is kind of a mix.
Yeah.
The Herod part's really important.
I think most of the time they
merged
mush
them.
the stories together, even though when you do that, it can't really work because the stories aren't at all the same.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because in Luke, Joseph's never mentioned, but Elizabeth and Zechariah get a lot of playtime in the whole lead up to the birth of John the Baptist. So that's really crazy. As we think about these different gospel versions of Christmas, or not, where Christmas isn't even important enough to warrant a story, which is interesting considering how Christmas is at the center of culture wars right now and has been for years now because of Jesus being the reason for the season. We can't look at these gospel stories, even the ones that have anything about Christmas, especially Matthew and Luke. These are not factual historical records.
Right.
We just have to, there's no evidence of these things.
Yes. I'm just going to sit over here while you keep saying stuff like that, because I'm scared we're going to get hit.
As the ex-evangelical in the room.
I know. It's just like, ah! Yes.
So, but I think we can look at what did these things mean. And so if we look at the Gospel of Matthew, what's important is that the writers are trying to point to how Jesus is the new Moses and making that connection to the story of Moses. And so that's what's important about the Matthew story. Even if it's not historically factual, the story can still be true in how it's tying Jesus into the Jewish tradition and showing how Jesus is the new Moses.
Right. And I think with Luke, it's a much more, I don't want to say softer tone, but it is a much more female focused. You know, you have the plight of a barren woman, you have the plight of a virgin, and then you have, you know, just the rejected people of the society that seem to be the main important characters. I would like to point out, though, that the difference between God in both of them is kind of interesting, too. Matthew really doesn't talk too much about God in these stories. In fact, he's not even there. It's the angels that keep showing up. And then you get to Luke, and God seems to be a bit more unstable. Like, if you don't listen to him, you're going to be what Zechariah was, deaf and mute.
Oh, yeah.
Because he didn't believe God when the angel came. Like, there's a little bit more of a, you know, and the women, of course, believe God all the time, and they are almost rewarded. So there does seem to be a little bit more of a women are badass.
Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
And women listen better. I don't know.
Thanks for tuning in. Up next, will the rejects keep, rethink, or reject today's topic? Stay with us.
In this installment of our Advent calendar of unpacking Christmas issues in Christianity, instead of telling you what we keep, rethink, or reject as we normally do on these episodes, we are going to offer that to you, dear friends, and you get to decide what you want to keep, rethink, or reject of the Christmas stories, or non-Christmas stories, as the case may be with Mark and John.
And please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. And then we're going to be back soon with some outside or out of the box Christmas stories.
Yes.
And I'm very excited about that.
Dragons.
I know, dragons.